So the topic today is what is plagiarism, how to write a review article or discussion about the article, how to avoid plagiarism. So first of all, the definition of plagiarism is using someone else's work without giving them proper credit. Okay. And in academic writing, plagiarizing involves using the words, ideas or information from a source without citing it correctly. And in practice, this can mean a few different things. So there are few types of plagiarism. One is global plagiarism, means passing off an entire text by someone else as your own work. Okay. You are citing the whole article of someone else and projecting it as your own. Verbatim plagiarism means directly copying the someone else's words. Paraphrasing means rephrasing the someone else's idea to present them as your own. This means you are reframing the sentence in another words or using passive language or omitting the words. This is paraphrasing. Patchwork plagiarism means stitching together the parts of different sources to create your text. You have taken some part from one article, some from the another, and some from the third article, and you have stitched those ideas to make your new idea. And self-plagiarism. This means if you have published an article in your name and you are using that article as an original article. So you cannot use your own article as a original idea. You have to cite that article with proper reference and citations. So examples are copying the text word without quotation marks. If you are copying the part of text and it has been said by another person, you have to cover it under quotation marks and cite uh, the original who have given the idea. And why it is wrong? It makes it seems like these are your own words. You are not citing the name of that person. Paraphrasing a text by changing a few words, altering the sentence structure um, by means of uh, making the sentence direct, indirect, or passive, and without source, citing the source. And it makes it seem like you came up with the idea when in fact you just rephrase someone else's idea. So this is not allowed in academic world. Giving incorrect information about a source. You have given us information, but you have not cited the source properly. If someone else check the source, he won't find the information by themselves. Quoting so much from a source that it makes up a majority of your text. And you have taken an article, and majority of part of your review or discussion you have quoted that article. This is also not allowed. Even with proper citation, you are not making an original contribution, and you are relying so much on someone else word who may be one or two persons. You are not reviewing the various other researchers. Reusing work you have submitted for a previous assignment without citing yourself. This is self-plagiarism. Submitting a text written entirely by someone else. This is global plagiarism. So these are the examples of plagiarism. This is the same list of examples. So few other points are copying verbatim without proper citation, synonym substitution. You have substituted the word by a synonym and making a new sentence. This is also a plagiarism. Technical disguise, using identically looking glyphs from another alphabet. Okay. For example, you have replaced A from alpha. This is technical disguise. Translation from one source to another language without proper taking the proper procedural guidelines to translate a article from one to another. Okay. For example, you have translated an scale from English to Hindi, so you have to take a procedure to translate and cite the original article as it is, and there is a procedure. Paraphrasing, you already know. Appropriation of ideas and concepts. The one have given the ideas, but you have appropriated an idea to nearer to that original idea. This is called as appropriation. And reusing text structure. Ghost writing is also a plagiarism. You cannot give your article to be written by someone else. It is also known as contract cheating. So in self-plagiarism, factors that justify reuse or reuse of another's word. In some point, you can use the article as such or the part of the article as such. In some cases, uh, with the given point, when the previous work must be restated to lay the groundwork for new contribution in the second work, if this is related, and the previous work is the groundwork for the second idea generated from the one research. Portion of previous work must be repeated to deal with new evidence or arguments. There are new evidence or arguments like nowadays E is not equal to MC square, it is E is equal to mu MC square. So the original idea can be cited as a portion of the your work. The audience for each work is so different that publishing the same work in a different place is necessary to get the message out. In some instances, in not in the all, uh, this can be done. If the author thinks they said it so well the first time that it makes no sense to say it differently a second time. In such cases, you can reuse with the justification. So, what are the tips to avoid plagiarism? For your purpose of thesis, start your work on time. Okay, so that you have enough time left to write a paper without getting plagiarized. So start collecting articles on the basis of your keywords on which topic you are working upon. You make some keyword, 5 to 6 keywords, and search for the articles and make a pool. Make a pool of those articles and then sort out according to your thesis topic. Paraphrase or rewrite the original ideas into your own words without changing the actual meaning. Okay. If you have found, basically you have to look for the result part of any article to give evidence for your own original article. For example, you have found something which you can cite in your article, and uh, the fact is already have been done, or the partial part of the original article have been done related to your topic. You can take those data from the result and you can frame your ideation around that data in your own words. This thing I will tell you in the further slides. Add quotation marks if you want to copy paste text into your paper. For example, the definitions. Definitions are fixed and framed, and if you want to take the definition of dual diagnosis, for example, the definition of dual diagnosis is same for everyone. So you should quote that definition and cite the name of the researcher who have given the words. Cite the source effectively by following the formatting guideline specified the institution. For example, Vancouver style or other styles. Explore and present your own ideas instead of copying and pasting someone else's work. You can get an idea what has been done, what are the lacunas, and what can be done further uh, to fill that deficiency. You can take these ideas from previous work, and for your new ideation, you should present your own ideas, or the ideas should be the question of the research work, the hypothesis of the research work should be ideally original. And add a reference page. You should all do that in the last. After finishing writing, run the writing piece through a plagiarism checker before final submission. Okay. So these are the tips to avoid plagiarism. Now we will discuss an article which is already written by me. This is complicated opioid withdrawal, a case study. We will discuss the introduction and discussion part, and you will get to know somewhat how to write an article. So we have three keywords: the complication, the opioid, and the withdrawal. So we will focus only on these three words, and in addition to these, delirium will also be there because the person who we have studied was having delirium after having opioid consumption in the phase of withdrawal period. So, so according to this topic, the question is whether the opioid withdrawal has complication or not. What the actual situation is. So, starting with the definition and criteria of the three classification ICD-10 DCR, DSM-4 TR, and DSM-5 3. All these three classification does not include delirium as a withdrawal of delirium or seizure as a withdrawal of opioid. So the words included in all these classification are rhinorrhea, sneezing, lacrimation, muscle aches, cramps, abdominal cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all these blah blah. But they are not quoting seizure or delirium as a complication in their guideline. So this means that something is there which is happening with the patient in parallel, which is causing delirium or seizure in such cases. So we will study in the further sentences. So now see the first frame sentences is questioning about the opioid withdrawal. So now read the sentence. Opioid withdrawal usually characterized by craving for an opioid drug, and these are the withdrawal symptoms: restlessness, sleep, as per ICD-10, DSM-4, and DSM-5. So citations are there 1, 2, and 3, and you will find it in the reference list. You can see in the paper which I have given. 1, 2, 3 is the citation for these classificatory system. Further describes it without quoting complications such as seizure and delirium. This is an original idea. Uh, we have cited the withdrawal symptoms and we quoted three guidelines. Okay. And further, recently, अब क्या हुआ? Recently, anecdotal reports are emerging with conditions such as withdrawal, seizure, and delirium due to opioid withdrawal after ruling out all the possibilities. No. Citation 4, 5, and 6. Okay. We have studied the article 4, 5, and 6, and we have found that there are anecdotal reports which says the opioid withdrawal patients had seizure and delirium as a complication, but the guidelines are not saying. So second point is this. And in the conclusion of introduction, however, authors also do not deny the possibility of such complications, and it could be due to impurities present in the steroid opioids. So this is the consensus. The impurities may be the culprit for the withdrawal symptoms, which is complicated. Present report describes a case of opioid dependence present with unusual withdrawal for bracket में delirium and later diagnosed to be due to infectious cause. In this case, the cause was infection, but we will discuss what had happened to other cases also who were abusing opioid and had seizure and delirium as complication. So this is the query which we raised in the introduction. Okay. Now coming to the discussion part. The case was of opioid withdrawal, and on the 10th day he had delirium, and we worked upon it, and we found that the case was of infectious uh, etiology. But what happened to other patients who had been reported with opioid withdrawal as complication? Now discussion part. To the date, various forms of opioids are being abused in India. We already know this fact, so no citation is required, which varies from raw to impure street drugs. So raw means the raw opium, and the street drugs are impure street drugs, and also pharmaceutically formulated opioid drugs are abused, like capsule injection, Fortwin, which contains pentazocine, isvazoproxavan, which has acetaminophen, dicyclomine, and dextropropoxyphene, and which are supposedly devoid of impurities. Now we will compare what are happening between these two type of persons who are abusing the pure pharmaceutical substance and the street drugs. The impurity varies widely depending upon the various factors and from country to country. Okay. So The next question is about the impurities. What kind of impurities we have and are reported from various geographical areas. We found a study. This was the study from Egypt, Cairo. We didn't found any study who studied about the impurities in our geographical section. So we cited this study. In Egypt, concentration of heroin ranged from 0.27 milligram percent to itna with an average concentration of itna. Citation 7. This was the article from which we had took this part, the part of impurities only. We discarded all the information given in the article. We need this, what kind of impurities we are having in our society. Now, the most common impurities found in the sample were these, and these. And other major adulterants were paracetamol, caffeine, ephedrine. And to the lesser extent, chlorpheniramine, phenobarbital, and these amphetamines, carbamazepine, and theophylline were found. All these impurities were found in the adulterated uh, opium constitutions. So next, the impurities which are clearly implicated. All the impurities are there, and we have to find which impurities is implicated for withdrawal complications such as seizure or delirium. So we found these two, phenobarbital and carbamazepine. Again, from the same study, we have found these. And also, I had found the unpublished data on impurities in street drug, which says uh, there is mannitol, quinine, benzodiazepine, and dextromethorphan are also being used. So benzodiazepines are also there to cause uh, withdrawal seizures. Okay. When we have looked upon all the data, so we had found the complicated opioid withdrawal were found in all the cases who were abusing the mixed substance, which had some kind of impurities. And a study reported that 43% of brown sugar abusers in this study had seizure. This is a big data. The person was abusing brown sugar, which is raw, and had some mixing of some substance and had seizure. And 26 developed confusion after seizure, and 17 experienced psychotic symptoms. The point to be noted here is the person who were having these withdrawal, complicated withdrawal, were abusing street drugs. However, this incidence is unexpectedly higher in comparison to data available, hence possibility of content of impurities which has definitive causation in complicated withdrawal is higher in this group of subjects. And again, also, who are supposed to hail from the same geographical area, subjecting to abuse of street drug with the similar impurities, hence having higher incidence. So this is also a point. We have found 43% of cases with the seizure, and coming to the conclusion with this that the person who were abusing drugs in this area are from the same geographical area, and the higher possibilities are they are abusing the same substance with same impurities, and that impurity may be high in that geographical area, so they had found a higher incidence of seizure. Other case in a report was also smack abuser. This was a case report. uh, that is a street drug which is highlighted here, uh, quotation 5. Further, a study reported that 7 cases were used to inhale the heated drug, which reflects the high possibility of street drug abuse, and only 1 case had history of benzodiazepine abuse among them. This is from the 6. Now, what happens is when we see the person who were abusing pentazocine or buprenorphine as a pharmaceutical agent were not associated with seizure. In this case report, seizure is not found, while association with complication was found with dextropropoxyphene in intoxicated phase. there was a citation with of complication, but the person was in intoxicated phase, not in the withdrawal phase. And instead of intoxicated phase, instead of withdrawal phase, depicting that complication is associated with street drug only. Quotation 8. So finally, we had wrote to the best of knowledge of authors, data on complicated withdrawal due to prescription opioid drug is not available. Hence, it may be speculated that complication is resultant of impurities in street drug rather than opioid itself. This was the final conclusion. And additionally, there were two reports in which the person was introduced to naloxone and naltrexone with to reverse the opioid toxicity and detoxification respectively resulted into delirium. Now what happens is the person was in intoxicated phase because of the opioid and reversal was given and resulted into delirium. Now what happened in the first report where naloxone was used to reverse respiratory depression due to toxicity, the impurity of scopolamine is documented, which may be the cause of delirium. है ना? Scopolamine is a known substance for causing delirium. So this can be said that this is the culprit, not the opioid itself. The second case in which naltrexone was used, patient was abusing alcohol as well. He was abusing alcohol as well, and status of which was uncertain due to unreliable informant. And this alcohol abuse may be the cause of alcohol withdrawal delirium in this case. Now another possibilities. So we are discussing the possibilities in these case reports, what is happening or what we are having in our mind. So we are discussing the possibilities. The another possibilities in both these cases is that the introduction of antagonist compelled the rapid dissociation of agonist and the rapidity of switching from agonistic maintenance phase to antagonistic status in the receptor cascade system itself resulted into delirium. This may also be the possibility. The person is on the use of opioid and suddenly we have reversed the mechanism. The patient may land up into the delirium. This is another possibility. Thus gives rise to the great possibility of complicated withdrawal attributed to other factors rather than the opioid per se. So this was all about the plagiarism. What are plagiarism? The type of plagiarism and tips to avoid plagiarism and uh, live example of case report, how was the review was written and how the discussion was done. So thanks to all.